that, when you buy a Tesla, you're not buying a car.
It's like
you're
a
buying
toy.
You're buying technology.
It's an adult toy.
It is an adult toy, and I really did like. Hey everybody, it's Doc, and this is Patty. Welcome to the channel, because this is a segment where we shoot the bull, talk about cars, current topics, and upcoming trends, and basically offer our take on things.
Yep, pretty much everything here is based on our experiences and our opinions, but we do encourage you to share yours with us.
Yep, we'd love to have your comments. Actually, we encourage them. So let us know where you stand, but please keep it respectful and courteous. The subject at hand today is actually, we're going to talk about the things that we learned or the things that we wished we would have known before we bought an electric vehicle. And, it's not like just buying another gas vehicle, because there's a whole different line of physics that you need to learn as far as taking care of batteries and range and stuff like that. One of the primary concerns that people have is basically, how does the battery operate? How do you charge? What kind of range do you get? And so I think the first subject at hand would be to talk about the three types of charging. Okay. And essentially, type 1 charging is the slowest, which you would do out of your regular outlet, a 110 outlet, and you get about 4 miles per hour of a charge in that, which means you gain 4 miles every hour that car is plugged in.
It's like, the car is going to sit for a couple of days, just plug it in and...
Well, it's going to sit for a long time.
Yep.
A very long time to charge.
Yeah.
And so most people don't opt to do that. Most people opt to go to a level 2 charger in their garage, which essentially, if you have a dryer plug in your garage, you're already set up. And level 2 charging runs, it's 220, and basically you're running about 25 miles per hour for every hour that you have, for every hour that you're plugged in. And the bonus to owning an electric vehicle is the fact that you can fill up at home, you can leave home with a full tank, we'll talk about that in a minute, and essentially no more stops at the gas station, which is wonderful. The thing is, though, you have to have this 220 outlet, which, depending on what your electrician charges, or if you already have the outlet in your garage, it's gonna vary in cost. And I think for us to have 220 run to our garage, it was about $1,000. And the other option would be to actually have a charger put in, which would be like a Tesla charger or something like that. And there really isn't a benefit over having a specific charger put in your garage for your car as opposed to using a $200 mobile cable. And the reasoning of that, well, I guess the caveat to that is, if your electric company offers you a discount or a rebate, you might be able to do it for free. But otherwise, I think just doing the plug-in would be fine. And there is another option, since this happened after we had our car, which basically you can get a splitter. So if you have your washer and dryer in your garage, you can actually have a splitter which has 2 plugs on it. And when the dryer's not going, it may elect to charge your car, which is pretty nice. And then, for us, we live where electricity is very reasonable. And so essentially it becomes even more reasonable if you set the car to charge at night. Right. And realistically, we were charging for, we'd fill our tank for $6 or less, yeah. which was really sweet, because that's guilt-free driving.
So we had a Tesla Model Y, and I thought that was a great first vehicle as far as electric vehicles went. I found it was very easy to get used to. I guess, I don't want to sound like a girl, but one of the strangest things for me was getting in the vehicle and having the big screen and having no dials right directly in front of you.
Well, you don't really turn the car on.
I know.
The car right? just started working.
Yep.
And then when you left, it turned off, which is a weird thing. Yeah. But Tesla's, in my opinion, here comes the opinion. Tesla is kind of the Apple Watch of cars, or Apple products of cars, because it's pretty dumbed down. I mean, you don't have to have, basically what the salesman shows you in the first 5 minutes at the dealership, that's all you really need to know. And if you didn't listen to anything that we said here, you would probably be okay up to a certain point.
Oh, absolutely.
And the points that we're making here, if you live in a big city on the West Coast, you live down south where there's lots of superchargers, a lot of the stuff you don't necessarily need to know, but I think it's important to know how your car operates. Yeah. And the next thing I want to talk about is battery health. And with lithium-ion batteries, you never want to charge to 100% more often than you need to.
And why is that?
Well, because it puts a lot of stress on the battery, and pretty much anything above 90% is significantly stressful on the battery. The other reason you don't want to charge above 80% is because it takes longer. Sure. But let's talk about the stress on the battery first. So essentially, if you charge your battery to 100% every day, it would significantly lessen
the life of the
lifespan of the battery, and actually you'd notice a significant decrease in the amount of charge your battery could hold over a relatively short time, over a couple of years. And batteries tend to lose about 1% of function every year. So you really want to take care of that battery as much as you can, and essentially keeping it below 80% is the way to do that. The best way to do that is, again, Tesla makes it easy for you. You can set your charger to charge at night and to charge to a certain level. When you go to the supercharger, it's the same thing. You can go up to 80% and have it stop, which is really, really nice and seamless. So Tesla's worked that out really well. And, but the concept you have to realize with switching from a gas-operated car to an electric car is that essentially when your gas tank gets to half full on your gas car, you're swinging in the gas station, you're filling up, and you're moving on, and it doesn't cost you any time. Whereas with an electric car, the speed of charging is faster when the battery's empty than it is when it's full.
That's kind of a difficult concept to grasp, but I get it.
And the best way that I've had this explained to me is imagine a stadium. And the people going into the stadium, the first 3/4 of the people going into the stadium can get in really quickly and find their seats. And those last amount of people have to shuffle over the other people to get to their seats. And it takes longer for that last 25%.
Sure.
And that's pretty much exactly the way that electrons work in a battery.
All right.
So it's a real easy concept if you think of it that way. And so the goal when you're traveling with an electric vehicle is you roll into that gas station as empty as you can stand it. For me, that was about 15%. And then...
And not at the gas station.
Oh, sorry. You're right.
The
charging station.
Yes.
And from that point, it takes the car as long to fill from 20% to 80%. As it does from 80% to 100%. So you get that fast charge on the bottom. So you fill to 80%, and then you move on, and then you hit that next supercharger. You hit a little bump there up to 80%. So you never ever actually fill your car up unless you're leaving the house to go on a long trip.
How long did you think it took to fill or to charge from 15% to 80%?
Well, and see, that's all variable on your charger.
Well, I mean, like if you are at a supercharger,
so
30 minutes?
If you're at a supercharger, and superchargers are variable now too, because now they're going to I think it's a V3, the 350 speed ones. So at 250, which is probably what most superchargers are right now, we're talking 20 to 80, probably 20 minutes.
Okay.
And the nice thing about that is, superchargers are flawless. And you plug in your car, it recognizes your car, it recognizes your credit card, and it starts filling. And then you can walk away, and it will notify you by text when your car's almost to the level that you want it, and then you can go out there, unplug, and get going again.
Which is great if you lived in a bigger city and, you could, I don't know, go to Starbucks or wherever you want. We were limited at the time to the superchargers that were available to us here in the Midwest. So mostly we went to the grocery store.
And we still are limited.
We are still limited.
So to put that into perspective for anybody that's on the West Coast or in a bigger city, the state of California has like 500 superchargers. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're just talking Tesla products only. There are countless other makes of chargers, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And so 500 in California, state of Iowa has 17 or 18 now. Mm-hmm. And so even in Des Moines, when we had our car, and I think there still are only 2 superchargers, one on each side of town. Mm-hmm. So you're pretty limited.
2 stations where they had like 4 or 5 ports, but
right. And so basically, when you're traveling, you probably are going to be eating at where the supercharger's at. And for us, we'd go down to Kansas City and there'd be the Bethany supercharger. Yeah. Well, what are your choices? Casey's or what was that restaurant down the street?
Don't remember. Oh, sorry.
I can't remember. Toot Toot. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Toot Toot.
Toot Toot, which I'm not sure if I
I wasn't sure if it was you were talking about Toot Toot or fried pies or where we were going.
No, if it was fried pies, I'd be happy. But there are no superchargers near fried pies.
No.
So one bit of additional information we want to throw in as far as travel and planning for your travels, particularly with superchargers, is the fact that the Tesla supercharged trip planner works pretty well, but you have to realize there's some idiosyncrasies to it. And essentially what it will do is it has, particularly across the Midwest and places where there aren't so many superchargers, it will plot for you exactly where you need to stop, how long you should stop, and get going to get to the next one.
Right.
But the major flaw that we found out, particularly when we wanted to travel down into Tennessee or Kentucky, was that either the supercharger would take you to a place and you'd have a 6-hour layover because it was a level 2 charger, which hopefully that is fixed by now. Mm-hmm. And or it would take you on a 100-mile circuitous route out of the way to get to a supercharger. And so it was still faster than 6 hours, but not by much. I mean, we're talking about maybe a 2-hour benefit there. So that was uncool at the time. And then the other part of the flaw with the Tesla planner is the fact that by nature, it rolls you into your destination on empty. And which normally isn't a problem if there's somewhere to charge. Mm-hmm. But when we were talking about going, I always use Camden, Tennessee as my example. You roll into Camden, there's no chargers there. There's no chargers, and there's probably not even a reliable 110 plug-in in that town.
They had a really nice 11-unit motel there, otherwise.
It was a nice, yeah. So, you have to be careful about that. You have to make sure that when you get to where you're going, if you use the Tesla planner, that basically there's somewhere to charge when you get there. Mm-hmm. And
it's a guide.
Right.
You need to do your own homework.
And there's lots of other apps to use, and essentially there are some that are better. There are some that pick out other chargers. But the thing I've learned is that you never trust a charger to work that's not a Tesla charger. And in our experiences, Dubuque was another destination for us, and there was a charger in Iowa City on the way back, but it was 30 miles out of the way. So we thought we would stop in Williamsburg at the, I won't name the type of charger it was.
At an outlet mall.
It was at an outlet mall. Essentially, we got there and the charger didn't work. And we tried calling, they couldn't get it to work. And that happens more times than not as far as my experiences with the VW-owned charger. Yeah. And so we ended up limping home at 50 miles an hour and we rolled in on 3%, which we were lucky to do that. So,
Well, and I think that brings to light too, the speed at which you travel and other environmental factors can drain the battery
correct.
more than you expect, especially like in the climate that we live in. When it's cold, it's harder on the battery,
It's cold, and also the speed that you drive.
right?
And so, from my experience with driving in the cold, I did a drive to Kansas City when the temperature was 6 degrees. And I was actually pretty lucky. I noticed maybe about a 15% drop in my range, which was expected. The unfortunate part about that trip was that my heat pump gave out, and I did the trip at about 35 degrees in the car. So
Not good.
again, Teslas, they seem to be focused on the people down south and out west, and they don't quite have the whole winter thing together. So I'm pretty skeptical about the new Cybertruck, but hopefully they've heeded a lot of things that I have concerns about.
I do think when the roads were snowy and icy, that the weight of the vehicle really kept it grounded, literally, I think.
Literally grounded
On the highway,
And
because
so, so your vehicle weighs a lot more than just a regular car. Looking at the Model Y was 4,500 pounds, which by comparison, I'm trying to think, our Yukon weighs 5,500 pounds.
Okay.
So it's pretty close to the weight of a big SUV, and which it's a low center of gravity, so it works in your favor, but also for snow, particularly deep snow, the car doesn't have a lot of clearance, and it has a very flat bottom.
Yes.
So you are prone to high centering, which basically means that you get a lump of stuff under your car,
Yeah.
and your wheels spin, but they're not touching the ground. And if that happens, you're going to have someone give you a yank. And there's not a lot of good places to tug on a Tesla.
Right.
And that's
Yeah,
why you
that's a
spend the
problem.
extra money for the tow hitch, because that's the perfect thing to pull from.
Yeah.
The my other experiences with wintertime in the car actually were very good.
Yeah.
A lot of people will actually buy snow tires, and snow tires, particularly for that car, worked really well. We're studded snow people, but we didn't buy any studded snows for that car. We pretty much drove it on pretty nice days and saved the snowy days for the Land Cruisers and the Broncos. That's right.
Speaking of Mr. Wizard, you're pretty tech oriented. We should talk about some of the tech things that the Tesla had anyway that you enjoyed. What about I call it Autopilot, but what is
Well,
what was its true name?
I always said that, when you buy a Tesla, you're not buying a car.
It's like
you're
a
buying
toy.
You're buying technology.
It's an adult toy.
It is an adult toy, and I really
that didn't
did
sound
like. Oh, I'm leaving that in. So the adult toy.
Yes.
Where on earth were we?
I don't. We're talking about Autopilot in the
Autopilot.
Tesla.
Okay.
Yes.
And so it truly is Autopilot. So you finally got that.
Oh,
right.
I got that right?
Yeah,
Well, then why do they have to call it something different in every vehicle?
you usually call it Auto Cruise or something.
yeah,
some
Auto
old lady
Cruise.
thing like that. But
Thanks.
So there are essentially 3 levels of self-driving in the Tesla. And every Tesla comes with basic autopilot, which essentially is lane centering, adaptive cruise, and pretty much that's it. And for the most part, it works really well. The other thing that it does is it reads signs. So it will read a speed limit sign, which can work in your favor and may not work in your favor. And the issue I had was that generally Autopilot would only let you set for like 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. And when I was leaving the hospital, when I worked over in Albia, basically the speed limit changed right where I was turning. The speed limit changed from 35 to 55. But as I turned, the car could not see that 5500.
Didn't recognize the
So
sign.
it would not let me go 60 miles an hour. It wouldn't let me
That's
go
all right.
faster than 45 miles an hour and have self-driving.
That's all
So
you needed in that vehicle.
I just turned left, made a loop, and came back so I could see the sign, so I could be a little bit lazy driving home on my curvy 30-mile drive. The second option for self-driving assist or driving assist with Teslas is the enhanced Autopilot. And the enhanced Autopilot, for all intents and purposes, offers automatic lane changing and navigation on autopilot. There is summon, and I can't remember something else. Summon is scary.
Yeah, frightens me.
Basically, I have never gotten summon to work. Where essentially, you put your car in the parking lot, and it's supposed to come to you. Doesn't work. It drives aimlessly, and it's dangerous. I've only tried it in empty parking lots, and it never successfully ever made it to me. The thing I really liked about enhanced autopilot was the lane changing. You have several options where you can Mad Max it and change that lane really fast, or you can slow that lane change down. I liked that a lot because, as I recall, our Model Y did not have blind spot mirrors in it. It didn't have any indicators. So when you used the lane change feature, the car looks around before it changes a lane, which basically that's your blind spot indicator. Now the Tesla fanboys will say, well, you can look at your center screen and it can tell you if there's a car next to you. But the reality is, I never could get that together. I never could get out of the instinct of looking to where the car might be to where the screen was. And so I liked the auto change feature or the lane change feature, but the thing I never trusted with it is, and there's actually a video online this week that shows it, is that if you have a car coming up on you really fast, it may not see it, and you may lane change right into a car.
That was the one thing that frightened me the most about that vehicle was when it changed a lane, it did it right now. It was like, whoop, there we go.
That's because I had it set on the Mad Max setting.
Okay.
So just because I liked hearing you shriek every time I did it.
Word.
So full self-driving is the other option. And again, for people in the Midwest, people in rural areas, full self-driving really isn't worth it. And essentially, all full self-driving offers above enhanced autopilot is the fact that you can navigate on autopilot, and it will supposedly go through town. It will supposedly stop at stop signs, and my experiences with it were pretty dismal, to be honest. And I was even in Kansas City because I ended up going down there a lot when the car had to be serviced. And essentially, I would test it out as far as with the autopilot fully engaged. And what I got, in my opinion, was the equivalent to a 16-year-old on their first day of driving. Lane changes were dangerous. It would lane change into a lane that's ending. It just made no sense, and it pretty much scared me enough where I just shut it off and stuck with basically the enhanced autopilot part of it. And they're even, there's a lot of people out there that say even the enhanced autopilot isn't worth it because the price has gone up so much.
Oh.
Now, the only caveat to the full self-driving, because full self-driving is like $12,000 now. They do offer a monthly subscription. So you could, in theory, get full self-driving,
try it out,
upgraded for a month. Well, if you're going on a trip,
right,
you could upgrade it for a month, go on your trip, drop it, and then not have to pay the big bucks to have the full self-driving. Mm-hmm. Again, it's another one of the things that Elon Musk has promised, but his promises have not been perfect. And actually, having owned cars now that have Toyota Safety Sense and having a GM with Super Cruise, I way prefer the Super Cruise because it's dumber. and you'll see a video on that pretty soon. So I guess to wrap that up, we do need to talk a little bit about the science of electric vehicles and just some little subjects that you might be interested in. And the one thing that attracted me to electric vehicles was not the being green part and not getting great gas mileage. It's essentially how fast they are.
Oh, sure.
But I need to correct that. So, EVs are insanely quick, which, neck breaking 0 to 60 speeds. Our Model Y Performance could do 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds. It might have been even less than that. And it was, like I said, it was just an insane amount of acceleration. But the reality is they're not fast. And when I say they're not fast, they're heavy, they don't track well. So if you're looking for a fast car, an EV may not be for you. But if you're looking for a quick car where you want to do quick lane changes, you want instant response, then certainly an EV is the thing that you want. The other thing you have to realize, so some people will look at EVs and say, well, I don't need all-wheel drive. I just want rear-wheel drive, and that's it for me. Mm-hmm. The reality is, with electric vehicles, and these physics have never made sense to me, more motors make more efficiency, and I imagine that's because each motor is stressed less by, when you add more motors. Mm-hmm. So a Tesla, a two-motor Tesla will be more efficient than a single-motor Tesla, and a three-motor Tesla is technically going to be more efficient, but that doesn't turn out in, once you put big wheels on it and start doing burnouts, I guess. So
who would do that?
I know. Who would do that? I would highly recommend the long-range Teslas. I've owned the performance models, and to be honest, they're not that much faster, and I would take the extra 30 or 40 miles of range over that 0.3 second 0 to 60 acceleration improvement any day of the week. The other thing, people will promise you that Teslas or electric vehicles will have less expenses, but the reality is, for what you're giving up in oil changes and basically fluids, mm-hmm. you're making up in more tires because you've got a vehicle that is a lot heavier, mm-hmm. and you're looking at probably a 20% increase in wear. And I've seen cases where people have been burning through a set of tires in Teslas in 7,000 to 8,000 miles. And I don't know if they're just laying their foot on the pedal or if they're legitimately just losing that rubber from the weight of the vehicle. But then you also have to take into account as well that you do have to end up buying more expensive tires, not because tires are made specifically for EVs. Mm-hmm. Well, they are, but you have to buy a tire that can handle the weight.
Right.
So your choices are limited, and I looked for a long time to find a run flat tire for our Tesla. Never could find one because they don't make them in the weight rating that's required. So, with that, the only other thing I have to say is, that you might think that you're getting away with it without paying a gas tax.
Yeah.
But, which realistically in the state of Iowa, it's kind of still true, but you end up at registration, they charge you because they figured out that they're not getting taxes from you at the gas pump. So they're going to charge you when you do your registration. Right. The thing is, though, that at registration they charge you $50, and I can guarantee that you're spending a lot more than that in the course of a year paying gas taxes with your regular car. Mm-hmm. So anyways, I hope this was helpful, and you guys feel free to throw in the comments, give us your experiences.
Yes.
Tell us where you think we're wrong or where you think we're right. I'd love to hear from you guys. You guys have a great day. We'll see you out there.